mean, I think that's something that, me, for one, as a reporter, and I know many of my colleagues always appreciated him, in addition to the great play that we saw from him over the years, the dominant performances. We just saw it. You saw one of those clips there in the Super Bowl, the big catch down to the 2 to set up the game-winning score against the Rams. There it is, right there, showing his dominant ways throughout the course of this year when he could, obviously deciding that his body may not be able to take that full 16-game season, and really the preparation going up for it. Now let's bring in Ian Rappaport, our NFL Network insider. Ian, what can you tell us about Rob Gronkowski's retirement here?
This is something that Gronk has been considering really for the last 2 years or so, ever since it came out after the Super Bowl, not this past one, but right before that, that he was going to take some weeks after the season to really contemplate his fate. And, as we know, anytime a player is considering retirement, then it is always a real and legitimate possibility. Gronk electing to come back last year with a little bit of a pay raise, incentive base, but a pay raise, ended up coming back and playing this season, and said the same thing, that he was going to take some time to really consider his fate. And it's interesting, Judy, the Patriots in their planning, they thought, based on his personal views, based on the fact that he didn't have any major injuries, he was in shape, he was working out, they thought he was going to come in and play. And, I think by now they all probably know the news, but tentatively in their plans, they thought he was going to be there. And obviously now goes out on top on the way to Canton. But for the team, a pretty significant loss here.
It's a huge loss, and as our own Mike Giardi pointed out to me before, and I'm sure he'll say it again, not just a loss on the field, but sort of in the personality of that locker room. And he was the one who brought levity when levity was needed. And, every team needs that element in a locker room, and I'm sort of curious to see who fills that role now. But, we said this before, but like when a player starts talking openly about the possibility of retirement, it's in the back of their mind. And towards the end of the season, again, I believe it was our own Mike Giardi who asked the question that elicited a very thoughtful answer from Gronk about nobody understands sort of how much wear and tear there is, and how much pain there is, and how much you have to deal with to get ready. And I thought that tells you what's really going on in his mind as he goes through what was obviously a season that had, some injury issues that limited him.
And it did seem like
difficult to hear that,
Yeah, and it did seem like they rested him at times this season.
Right. They managed him.
I mean, they managed him exactly. And for the Gronk that we have seen become a star over the past decade or so, it's been 100% full speed ahead. This was the first year where it didn't seem like that. I mean, he's still very, very good player, still better than most tight ends, but clearly turned into more of a blocking tight end than anything else. And it was interesting, the Patriots pursued Jared Cook very strongly. At the time, the original thought was to be a compliment to Gronk, and now maybe it might have been as a replacement for Gronk. That's an element that the offense was lacking, and obviously now losing one of the greatest tight ends who has ever played, a pretty big loss there and a pretty big hole to fill.
Yeah, I had this question also about how do they fill, he was a rare tight end in this day who could do both exceptionally well, block and receive. There are not many people you can drop into that and expect both, and certainly I don't think there's anybody you can drop in and expect to do it both at his level. How they fill both of those roles is going to be interesting.
Yeah, and there are, at least 2 probable first-round tight ends this year in the draft, which is great, except the Patriots picked 32nd. Yeah, right. So I don't think they're going to have a chance at either of those top guys. And now, I mean, I will say this. Jared Cook has been negotiating with the Saints. His agent, Torrey Dandy from CAA, has been negotiating for the last several days. They are very close on the deal, the Saints to Jared Cook. It is not yet signed, though. So if there is an opening the Patriots would like to jump through, the actual window is not wide open, but it is cracked just a little bit.